All right. Are there explanations for rising inequality? So globalization essentially has the same effect as automation, at least in the US context. Essentially, those low skill jobs are going away. So with automation, they're going away because they're being replaced by computerization of some kind. Globalization, they would be going away because the jobs are being outsourced to workers overseas. All right, so essentially, it's the same. The effect is the same, but the replacement is different. Um, so that's explanation number three. Explanation number four is like looking at this wage stagnation, um, and saying, all right, it's because of the decline of unions. So unions, if you're not aware, what a union is essentially workers collectively bargain. It's a way to reallocate some of, say, the profits of a firm from the owners to the workers. So the workers essentially collectively bargain and are able to, in theory, gain a bigger slice of the pie. So I'm not going to go into depth on unions and their effects, positives or negatives, but essentially the idea is they're able to reallocate some of those profits or revenues from the owners to the workers. Now, there are other methods of that reallocation. You could have stock options. So some firms have, essentially stock options in that if the firm grows, then everybody in the firm gets a bump up. There are other ways that workers may have power. There's like co-determination, which is putting workers on the board of a firm. But anyways, we'll focus on unions. And so there has been a rapid decline of unionization rates in the U.S. All right, so this is the percentage of all U.S. workers that belong to a union. There's a high, about third, back in the 50s, and that has declined down to 12% in the present. This is recent work, Farber et al. There it is, kind of looking at this increase in unions right here, and the share going the top 10%, and kind of tying these two, that kind of this decline in income inequality in the beginning of the 20th century, essentially this period right here, this decline right here, kind of attributing that to unions. This is just one paper, so I don't know how much I buy it at this point, but there is, there does look to be a relationship. You can see this green line tracks pretty strongly with this blue line inversely. So this is union density, share unionized, and then inequality here, share going to that top 10%. All right, now the union story doesn't really explain why other countries are experiencing higher inequality while their unionization rates stay high. All right, so you think of those countries I showed earlier. But it's potentially part of the story. For me personally, I think the decline in unionization, um, there are other things unions give people beyond beyond theoretically an increased share of a firm's profits. It really gives people a sense of belonging and a sense of a meaning, like it's like a club. So I think that when we think about kind of places in the U.S. that have been left behind, you have declines in those places. There's actually a recent paper by somebody on the job market looking at the role of religion. And so basically you have a decline in kind of like a sense of belonging or a sense of meaning for many of these places that are left behind in the US. And I think part of that is due to the decline in religion, and another part is due to the decline in unionization. So unions gave people a sense of belonging, sense that they are part of something greater than themselves. And that's really what human beings really need, that, in my opinion. They need to feel like what they're doing has meaning, that they're part of something. And so unions really provide that. And organized religion also provides that, and both of those have been in stark decline in these areas. So for me personally, I'm not. I don't think unionization plays a huge role in the rise of inequality. Although again, this paper would suggest otherwise, and you can find work that suggests otherwise. But I do get concerned. I do think it definitely plays a role in the decline in like a sense of meaning or belonging. The minimum wage kind of bounces around, but there has been a kind of a steady decline in the minimum wage. As the federal minimum wage, but many states have pushed this up. It's a relatively small part of the workforce, where the primary earner is on minimum wage salary. So this is a relatively small effect on the overall aggregate the country. All right, so those are our other explanations: unions and globalization. We'll get to our last one, which is assortative mating after the break.